All right, my friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brian, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about me. So it's going to be something a little bit different because a few weeks ago, I was actually hospitalized here in the Philippines for 5 days. All right, now this is obviously something I kept private for obvious reasons. All right, so I do have a public side that I do share out there to the world, right? But I also keep very much of my own personal life very private. So this channel, I got to find kind of a good balance between these two areas of basically what I'm comfortable with sharing publicly, as well as kind of what I like to kind of hold back and kind of just have my own private life. So if it's something that's very helpful and educational for my audience, then yeah, that's fine. So that's the kind of that fine line where I'm kind of to walk here. Now, in regards to my health, I'm fine. Thankfully, what happened was not something that was completely life-changing. Yes, it was very serious. It put me in a hospital for 5 days, okay? But thankfully, it is something that is very correctable. And no, I did not have an accident on my motorbike. Everyone thinks that, but it's not what happened. All right, so my goal here is to share with you my experience in seeking critical medical care here in the Philippines. And in this video, I'm gonna summarize basically a few details and provide you with the overall cost, because I know that is what many of you are very interested in. What does it cost basically to get medical care abroad, all right? And in following videos, I'll go into depth, kind of more in depth regards to the overall care, okay? And then also the insurance claims process, how things work here, basically when you get admitted, what happens through the ER process, kind of all those little pieces. So that's what we're going to get into. Now, let me set expectations here, all right? And this is something I want to really point out, and I've pointed out in a few other videos as well, okay? St. Luke's Medical Hospital here, St. Luke's Hospital here in BGC, Bonifacio Global City in Metro Manila is considered one of the most expensive hospitals in the Philippines, all right? And this is my local hospital. So in the case, in the case of an emergency, if I have an emergency, this is where I seek care. Okay, so I'm not like, okay, where am I going to go to get cheap care? This is my local hospital. Therefore, my medical bill was more expensive compared to medical care here in other parts of the Philippines. So this is kind of the, again, it's an elite hospital and it is considered one of the most expensive. And yes, given that I am a foreigner from the United States, where I've been paying into that healthcare system for my entire life, okay, the total medical bill here in the Philippines was very much in line with what we would consider in the US an annual health insurance deductible, right, that is often charged there. So I'm not here to argue about prices because I do not set the price, okay? The hospital does that, the local environment does that, okay? I can only present you my experience because I lived it, and that's something I like to do on this channel is if I've gone through the experience, I like to share that with you, okay? Now, I wish I had not lived this, okay? Being here alone in the middle of the night, laying in a hospital bed with tubes sticking out of you, wondering what the hell is going on with your own body, that is an emotional roller coaster I do not wish on anybody, okay? As an adult, I have never been hospitalized, okay? I've been very healthy my entire life, right? I was never pushed around in a wheelchair before. All of this was a completely new experience to me and a very uncomfortable experience for me, okay? But thankfully, the staff and the care that I received at St. Luke's Medical Center here in the Philippines was absolutely excellent, and I am very grateful to all of them for caring for me. So, with that, let's go ahead and get into what really happened, all right? So basically, as many of you know, a few weeks ago, I did a video about this. I went to the ER at the very end of July, had a massive headache and stuff, so a bunch of swelling in my neck, and I did a video on it, like I said. They gave me some muscle relaxants, they checked me out, and basically everything, like I said, was very inflamed. That worked in the short term, okay? But just a very few days after that, my body went crazy again. My feet swelled up, my legs swelled up, pounding headaches came back, and I'm thinking, okay, am I having a drug reaction now, all right? Because usually swelling and stuff like that is indicative of that. So I decided, well, let me go ahead and walk back to the hospital that evening, which is about 2.5 kilometers from where I'm at. In my mind, I'm thinking, again, same thing, exercise, do me good. But this time especially, I could not figure out why I had zero energy, no energy at all. And just that short 2.5 kilometer walk, I was completely exhausted. So I went back in the ER, I said, I think I'm having a drug reaction. I mean, my feet were so swelled up, I couldn't even get my shoes on. It was that bad. I had to unlace them all and stuff like that and just barely get them on. So I was concerned. Something was happening. And yet everything was about to change. All right, so after getting checked in, nurse took my vitals, everything else, sat me down, did my blood draw, and then like 15 minutes later or so, and again, I'm guessing on times here because you know how just you're in there and they're doing things. Nurse came back, she's like, we need to do another round. We need to verify a few things. And I'm thinking, okay, did the lab mess up? Did something happen here? What's going on? And she's like, no, we just need to verify some numbers. but she kind of had this kind of urgency about her. So I'm like, all right, maybe they found something. Well, let's take a look at this, okay? And again, now we're on round 2. About 20 minutes or so later, all of a sudden now the nurse comes back, and now she's got the doctor and they've got paperwork. Doctor looks at me kind of concerned, has that look on her face, sits down next to me and kind of in a soft tone, and she's like, how did you get here? All right, and I'm like, well, I walked and stuff, and just a bewildered look on her face, like, that's not possible, right? Then she showed me basically my paperwork. And turns out my blood work on the paperwork, my hemoglobin was extremely low. Like, they've never seen that low, to the point where she's like, you should be passed out right now. We don't understand how you were actually moving around and walking. I had no iron, I mean, almost no iron at all in my blood. I had severe anemia, okay? So my iron stores in my blood was completely depleted. So no iron was carrying oxygen to my muscles and stuff. So my heart was just working overload, trying to pump basically whatever it could around my body. So that's what was going on. And this did not make any sense to me, whatever, because just about 18 months prior to that, at the same hospital there in St. Luke's, I did an extensive physical and I was in excellent health. The doc was like, keep doing what you're doing. So something in that 18th month changed, and that kicked off basically a lot of testing. And that's the reason why they put me in a hospital for 5 days. They're like, something is weird. They had all my records from 18 months ago, and just other checkups I had done. And then now we've got this scenario going on. They're like, we need to figure this out. So basically that kicked off a round of testing. And of course, they're not going to let me leave with the fact that my hemoglobin and my iron was so low. All right, so they did a ton of testing. First off, they did ultrasounds on my heart and my legs. They wanted to make sure there's no kind of blood issues going on, kind of looking at cardiovascular items. And thankfully, all that was perfect, okay? So again, they're like, hey, strong heart, you know, you're doing really good here. You know, let's move on to the next thing. So then they focus and turn onto my abdomen. They're like, all right, let's go ahead and see if there's something going on, leaky gut, whatever that could be, right? So they did an endoscope, colonoscopy. They did 2 CT scans, one where they pumped basically the dye in to do a scan. So they had 2 CT scans done. I had blood transfusion. I had iron transfusion. I mean, I had so many things done in that 5 days to figure out what's going on. So I had a room full of doctors and nurses caring for me day and night while I was in there, okay? And again, I cannot thank them enough for their professionalism and quality of excellent care that they provided me. And they did really look after me, right? And thankfully, again, with their expertise and all the doctors kind of like, you know, working with each other, they got all this dialed in and stuff. And, you know, everything basically said, I'm on the mend, so everything's working out. And just a few weeks after now, after I got discharged, my numbers have significantly improved, right? So we kind of got a few things dialed in, and yeah, I'm definitely on my way back. So my doc said basically it's going to take me probably about 3 months or so to kind of everything normalize. I guess there's a 100-day cycle on your red blood cells getting what's that, repurposed or the manufacturing from your bone marrow, all that kind of stuff that happens. So basically they're like, you know, it's going to take you about 90, 100 days to everything to kind of stabilize. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. All right, so prices. Let's get into that because I know many of you now want to know, okay, how much did something like this cost? So let's go ahead and dig into the numbers. Now, I'll put this into perspective, right? My bill was 7 pages long, which sounds crazy because they break out a lot of the costs and stuff like that. But I'm going to try to keep some things private here. Like I said, I gave you just some basics and everything. But let's do a basic breakdown and stuff like that. And again, thankfully, everything's correctable. There's no kind of weird stuff going on. All right, so here's a basic breakdown. Okay, the total ER bill when I arrived Thursday night, and I was in there for about 8 to 10 hours before they got me Friday morning admitted into my room. Okay, that bill in the ER was in pesos 24,150, which turns out to be 421 US dollars. That's what the ER bill is. Okay, my total inpatient bill for 5 days in the hospital. This included all the testing, as I mentioned. Okay, the 2 CT scans, the ultrasound, the colonoscopy, the endoscope, all the room and board, all the pharmacies, all the you know, the IVs, the infusion pump, the transfusion, the drug therapies, everything included, right? Was a total of 268,332 pesos, or in US dollars, that's 4,685 US dollars for all of that. Now, they broke out the doctor professional fees on a separate line item, and that wound up being 81,000 pesos, or an additional 1,415 US dollars. This put me at a grand total for 5 days in a hospital with the ER and everything of 373,482 pesos, or 6,521 US dollars for my entire hospital bill being there in St. Luke's ER care, and 5 days admitted to the hospital, private room, all the care, all the testing, everything done. That's the total price. Okay, now, is this expensive? Yes, whether you look at it in pesos or US dollars, okay? I'm not trying to diminish the cost here, nor am I trying to brag about having the funds available to pay for services like this, all right? Yes, this is significantly less expensive if you had the same level of care and test performed in the United States, okay? There is no denying that at all right? And just so we're clear here, right, I kind of want to put this out there because I know I'm going to get in the comment section. This happens all the time. It's normal. All right. I'm going to get some negative comments, you know, where people say you shouldn't be comparing prices or that's going to make our prices go up more. That's not how it works here. I don't set the prices. Okay. Now coming from the US, right, which has, let me put it in perspective here. That has one of the most expensive healthcare systems in the world. This bill in the United States, if I got the same level of care in the US, right, this would be easily 10 times more expensive, right, which would be a minimum there in the US of over $65,000, okay? Or if you want to put this in Filipino peso, you know, equivalent, this would be 3.7 million Filipino pesos for the same kind of care, okay? And that's a price tag I cannot afford. Let's just be clear about that, okay? Again, my intent here is to provide information about my shared experience here. And yes, it sucks having gone through this, right? I do not wish this on anybody, okay? I had very uncomfortable moments there in the hospital. You know, I was very worried at times, right? Laying there in the bed, kind of trying to figure out what's going on with my body. This is not something that I just could force myself or power through something, okay? So I am extremely grateful that I was in a place, right, to have access to the care and the medical support from this excellent staff there at St. Luke's Hospital. I could not thank them enough because they really cared for me. All right, so St. Luke's here in the Philippines, and there's two of them. There's one in Bonifacio Global City, BGC, and there's one here in Metro Manila, North End in Quezon City. Excellent care. So that's it for this video, my friends. Let's go ahead and chat about this in the comment section. Again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Cheers.